how would you set up a target or the trailing stop using the RSI values? I don't think the RSI equates to price values. So the indicator has to spit out a price related, or a point size related value, I should say. A point size related value. Like the ATR, right? The ATR spits out a point value, which is obviously why we can use the ATR to set profit target distances and stop loss distances. So let me pull up the RSI here so I have it in front of me, and let's take a quick look. All right, so let's put the RSI on there. And for good measure, for comparison, let's put the ATR on the chart as well. All right, so we can see that the ATR on the bottom is, outputting values somewhere around 2.5, right? It's not changing much, right? 2.56, 2.51, and that's it, which makes sense because I'm on a 10 range chart, which is 2.5 points, right? 10 range, 2.5 points. The RSI is spitting out a value from 35 to 60, all right? So I would have to put the question back onto you, Tyrone. How are you converting 60 or 35, into some kind of distance, tick or point related distance for your targets and stop losses? So that's not something we're going to solve for you. That's something that you guys will have to solve. So we don't solve, problems like that for people, so it sounds like what you're going to have to do is kind of come up with your own customized version of the RSI, that spits out a value in points, just like the ATR does. And then, once you have, an indicator that spits out a value in points, then that can then be used for your orders. You can use it for your entry order or your exit orders. Either way, it doesn't matter to BlackBird. It's just an offset distance, right? That's what this ATR is. It's just an offset distance. And so let's use the 2 ATR here to give us an example. So when you open up the initial placement here, you can see in the offset section, right, this indicator selector down here, the only type of indicators that work down here as an offset, right? This is an indicator as an offset, not as an indicator to set the order price, right? So if you want to use, say, like a moving average to set your order price, then you would use that up here. So you would change the mode to indicator value, and so indicators up here on the top are being read. Their literal value is being read as the actual order price, right? So for the offset, that's just a distance. So these indicators are providing a distance, such as the ATR. Right. So that is the difference between using an indicator, up top versus using an indicator in the offset section there. Okay, so let's get back to Tyrone's question. So Tyrone wants to set up an exit condition when the RSI, either goes below 70 or above 30. So sure, okay, yeah, let's set that up here. All right, I'll use a stop loss to demonstrate this. But first, let's kind of clean things up here. All right, so what I'm going to set up here is if the so when in a short trade, if the RSI is above 30, we'll create an exit condition here, right? And so when in a long trade, the RSI needs to be above 70 when in a long trade. And if the RSI drops below 70, then it'll exit a long trade. All right. So, yeah, it looks like we're in a slightly down day. So, yeah, so the RSI has definitely been the RSI is not really below 30 here, but you know what? I'll make some adjustments here because maybe a range chart doesn't pull the RSI below 30 that often or above 70. So let's make some adjustments here so that we have something to work with. So let's reduce it to 60 and 40. There we go. There we go. All right. So now we have something to work with here because every once in a while the RSI will go below 40. So we have something to work with there. All right. So exit conditions within BlackBird when the RSI is above 40 for a short trade or below 60 for a long trade there. All right, so to do this, we're going to need either a profit target or a stop loss. So we need at least one exit order here to build this exit condition here. And we're going to build that exit condition within the trailing rules. So I'm going to use a stop loss here to build that. I think that's typically what most people will do. So doesn't matter. I'll just pick an ATR stop loss here, something, and I'll just throw that stop loss way out there. And then that RSI exit condition will be built in the trailing actions here. So let's turn the trailing actions on by setting the mode to custom there. And then let's create a trailing roll here. All right, so what should we call this? An RSI exit. Yep. All right, so we're going to use a trigger. So, triggers are what look for various conditions. Triggering conditions is what they really are, right? And so with the RSI, our triggering condition is, if the RSI goes above 40 for a short, or if the RSI goes above 40, or below 60, right? So to monitor that, we're looking for an indicator value, right? What is the RSI's indicator value? Let's open that up. And so the indicator here, we're going to set that to the RSI. Let's open this up. And let's do a little search for the RSI. There it is, RSI. And I'll just use the default settings. And we're going to use the RSI value, but if you want to use the averaged value, then obviously you could just select that plot. But I'll just leave it on the RSI plot there. And there we go. So we're good to go there. And so now, when we're in a long trade, right? So the long section of this menu here, this is the condition you're looking for when in a long trade here. So greater than, no, when in a long trade, we're looking for the RSI to be below or less than 60. So we're going to change this to less than, and then what value are we looking for? 60, right? So when in a long trade, if the RSI is less than 60, that is our triggering condition for a long trade to exit. So for a short trade, it's going to be the opposite, right? We're looking for the RSI to be greater than 40, and so that is our trigger condition for a short trade. And that's it. So that's our trigger, and now we have to set up the action. So what's the action? We want to flatten the position, flatten the trade. So, and that's it. So there we have it. So there's our trigger, right? Again, we're using the indicator value trigger condition, and then we just then we load in, right? Set up the values or the conditions that we're actually looking for from the RSI, that trigger that exit condition. So, all right. So with that, let's test this out here. If we can, it doesn't look like the market is moving enough to give us anything to work with. Maybe if I switch to a minute chart, let's see what happens. All right, yeah, there we go. But man, we have to wait a whole entire minute. Okay, that's a little too long. Let's switch to maybe a 30-second chart. Let's see. Yep, there we go. So let's go short. Cool. Okay, so we're short, and we can see the RSI is right below 40. And if the market moves up a little bit, yeah, the RSI might move above, and that'll exit that position there. Yeah, good. So it looks like in about 15 seconds, we should get an exit. Come on. Well, maybe not. Nope. Didn't happen. Well, I might have to switch over to simulated data feed. Actually, let's close that. Let me go back to a 10 range. If we get another down bar, there we go. Okay, let's go short. Good deal. All right, so the RSI, and so that was real fast, but the RSI did dip below 40 and then closed up. And, so my trade was on, and then it got closed out right away. That was really, really fast, gotta say. But you know what? If the market keeps going up, I can do a long trade. Nope. Yeah, with this 10 range, yeah, the market's not really. The RSI just, doesn't want to get below those ranges. Let's try a second chart here again. All right, there we go. So we'll go short. All right, RSI is below 40. So our short trade stays open. And then, so if this bar closes up, it looks like the RSI might go above 40 here. And there we go. All right, RSI did pop above 40, and it closed our trade out. All right, so there you go. There's another example of how you can use an oscillator like the RSI to create exit conditions, right? And if you notice, the indicator value trigger is basically the same thing as Bloodhound's threshold solver. It's the same thing as the threshold solver, right? You're looking for your indicator to either be greater than or less than some kind of value, which is the same as the threshold solver. So you could have done the same thing with the threshold solver in Bloodhound and created an exit signal within Bloodhound. BlackBird can do these kind of simple things here. All right, Tyrone says he's got it, so great. All right, so Kenny has a slight alteration of the RSI question, or a follow-up on the RSI question. So he actually wants to go long when the RSI goes above 70, or go short when it's below 30. Okay, well, so I can show how to do that. However, you got to keep in mind that BlackBird doesn't look for crossover conditions. It can only identify above or below conditions, right? So, so this may not be exactly what you're thinking of, but BlackBird can do that. So let's see here. So since I already have the stop loss here, already set up to exit when the RSI, goes below or above. So if we want to add the entry to this, we can go to the signal source and go to an indicator-based signal. And so with that, let's load in. Let's load in or set up the indicator here. So we want the RSI, like so. Right, set that up. And again, if you need to, adjust the period settings here, but I'm just going to stick with the default. That's what I have on my chart. And again, we'll just use the RSI, actual RSI, not the average. So, all right, so we have the RSI loaded in. And so now the entry, for the entry signal here, right, you can see that essentially we have the same kind of conditions here as that trigger, right? You can look for a value greater than, less than or equal to, whatever you want there, right? So we'll leave it on greater than, and so the value that Kenny's looking for is greater than 70. Let's see, yep, to go long, greater than 70, and to go short, less than 30. And there we have it. So, and we could have actually set up those exit signals, for Tyrone's question, within the exit signal section here. So there was, two ways to accomplish that. And there we have it. So with that, let's click OK and turn the auto trader on, and we'll see if we actually get some signals, although we might have to wait a little bit. Look at that, the RSI is like dead in the middle there. So, all right, so we're below 40, and let's see here. What is going on? So a short when it's less than 30. Oh, sorry. There we go. So let's set those back to 60 and 40. There we go. Okay, there we go. So as soon as I corrected that, there we go. So now we have that short because the RSI is below 40. So, all right, that was nice that the market kind of moved a little bit to work with us there. So there we have it. All right, so there's Kenny's question. So to use the RSI, above or below some kind of threshold value, right, we just went in. So in the signal source here, right, we use an indicator-based signal, and I would imagine that probably most people would actually want to use the crossover condition, and not just the RSI being above or below, but actually looking for that crossover condition. And so if that's the case, you would need to use a Bloodhound crossover solver, right, to actually look for that crossover condition, right? So let's see here. Let's close that. Right, so the crossover condition would be, right, looking for that. Go away. Come on. There we go. And, right, looking for that. Or back here, right, it'd be looking for that right there. Let's see. All right, looks like we might get a long entry here if the market will just move up a little bit. Nope. All right, maybe we'll get another short. All right, well, yeah, markets are, boy, just really acting kind of weird today. A little bit of consolidation.